Tadej's going to attack. Let's face it, they all know it. He's proved it for the last races from before the World, Tour de France, etc. He's going to attack by halfway.
I still have faith in Remco that he's going to be up there. I think he has that kind of form and ambition, maybe most importantly. He just wants it so badly.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Beyond the Podium. I'm of course Phil Liggett and here we are to chat about the last monument of what has been an extraordinary season. I'm talking about Lombardia, the Tour of Lombardy. And of course that man Tadej Pogačar, who's won it for the last 4 years, is now going to try and make it 5 in a row, and no one has ever done that. Is he lining himself up for another record? Well, one man who might know the answer is Christian Vande. Christian, welcome. I haven't seen you since the Tour de France. How are you?
Great, Phil. Good to see you as well. Look, I think that everyone has the answer, and that's Tadej most likely is going to win this bad boy. I don't see how you would bet against him right now, Phil. And we're talking about going up against the true greats as far as statistics goes. And going against Coppi, I mean, we've been talking about Merckx a lot, but when you started bringing back Fausto Coppi, he's the only one who's ever won 5 Lombardias, and considering he's doing them all in a row as well, Phil. I mean, I don't know where he gets it to wake up in the morning to continue to go this hard all the time.
Okay, Christian. Well, we're going to dissect the Giro di Lombardia, but first of all, you've got a lot of bikes behind you. No, let me ask you the question. Have you ever ridden the Tour of Lombardy? You must have done.
Yeah, I did it only one time. I wasn't fantastic form, but I was doing with and CSC, and I think, 20 years ago. Oh my God, 20 years ago, Phil. So we had a great time doing it. Yeah, you think about it, back then, Andy Schleck, I think, was 18 or 19 years old. It was his first big classic that he did. We had a great time, of course, before and after the race. I think we did a decent race, but it's an incredible race. It's a mix and match of true like MotoGP racing your bike down those descents and up the climbs. It's a very aggressive race as well. But yeah, you have to be a complete bike rider to do well there. And again, who else is the best there? Tadej Pogačar.
I think you're right, but it is a different race. It is the one that really announces the end of the year. I know we've got Paris Tour to come, but it's always been the race of the falling leaves, the autumn race that ends the whole season. And it is indeed the last monument of the year. But it is a very hard course for this end of the year, isn't it?
Oh, big time. It really... It's a question of who has the most left in their tank, who's motivated to do well in the because there's a lot of points on the line. If you have good form at the end of the year, you could garner a ton of points there for the UCI. So, you have all the semi-classics before that in the Italian races, and Tadej won one of those, Tre Valley, just this last week. Yeah. And of course, the Europeans before that and the World Championships before that. So he's been on a run, my friend. So yeah, it's an incredible race, but this is the culmination of all those races put together, and it's by far and large the biggest one by a long shot. And like you said, a very difficult race as well. A lot of climbing, twists and turns. You race just as hard as going up the hills as going down.
Okay, well, we're making our own record today, Christian, because I think this is the first time I've done Beyond the Podium with you. So it's good to see you. And you seem to be in your garage or something. What's all these bikes you've got hanging around?
I got some good bikes. Actually, I got a new one in here that I'm happy to show you. I have this is my little office. It's not so good here, but these are some bikes you might recognize. Actually, this one, that's Sean Yates's old bike that I used to I raced that when I was a junior. Obviously, a little bit too big for me. It's my first tour bike. Speaking of Italy, I got the pink jersey in that bike. But more importantly, this is my old 1996 Team Pursuit bike from GT, the super bike from USA Cycling. So this is incredible. And just to give you the difference between these two, this is my dad's 72 bike from Munich Olympics. I mean, look how crazy that was. 24 years. I mean, obviously this is all banned, isn't it, Phil? You have to have a top tube. You have to have, obviously, you can't. The tubes are all complete, but state of the art. It's very heavy, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
Well, you've gone from the old-looking bike there, the type I used to ride, right through to the modern Inium. But I'm just wondering which one is your favourite. You must have a favourite, surely. Do you ever ride them, by the way?
I don't I rode my old tour bike when somebody was telling us that we all had this one up here, that Trek, when people were saying that we all had engines in our bikes. I was like, come on, man, we couldn't get good wheels, let alone nanotechnology. I love the old Merckx, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sean's bike, that's when I was a kid. I really thought a lot about that, and that was my dream, to be on a team like Motorola, and I think that Sean
Yeah.
Yates is one of the coolest guys ever. So we got another Brit there. We got Cavs jersey up on the wall from back in Sky. You got a lot of
By the
stuff.
way, who
Just
was the
some.
PR guy for Motorola? Do you remember the PR guy from Motorola?
I
When was
barely remember him. I barely remember the PR guy used to come over to our house and drink all the scotch, Mr.
Oh,
Paul
that's
Sherwin.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember when he got the job, and I was working with him already on television, and well, he was so happy because he was a great friend with Jim Okovitz, who ran the team, and he felt very much at home. And you guys got the results for him, so you made him even happier. Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
let's talk
Phil?
about.
What about you? What jersey you got back on your wall up there?
That's a maillot jaune of the Tour de France. I didn't wear it, by the way, during my 53 tours, I think it is. But a couple of years ago, Christian Prudhomme stepped up behind me, very private little presentation, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around and said, Christian, he goes, Phil, this is for you. I said, maillot jaune. Yes, because you have done 50 tours. And I promise you, this is the first time I've ever signed the maillot jaune for anybody, and it's for you. So I burst into tears, of course, and now it's on the wall. And there's two signatures on it. Actually, there's Jean-Marie Leblanc as well, who'd signed it in the morning. Then when we arrived at Calais, where the race finished, that's when he made the presentation. And Jean-Marie doesn't. Jean-Marie Leblanc is one of the only two surviving race directors of the Tour de France. Felix Leverton, Jacques Godet, they've all passed on now. So they're both on that jersey you can see over my shoulder. I'm very proud of it. And
That's awesome. Love it.
it's superb. And I can see why everybody. So let's get on to it now. The last classic of the year. We call it the Monument. It's a long ride for the time of the year, but hey, these guys, these last few months seem to be getting the miles in with the World Championships in Rwanda. But there's only been one man dominating the whole of the season, as he seems to all the time. He doesn't race much. Now, his record, I alluded to at the top of the show, was he's won it the last 4 years straight. So if he wins it for a fifth time straight, he's the first one to do it. You mentioned that Fausto Coppi also won it 5 times, but he only got 4 straight and then one in the early 50s, 54 from memory. So now the question is, can he do it? But there are people in there. And one, here's the first question. Isaac Del Toro, his teammate, has won 18 races, I think, this year, 15 races this year. And he's won the last 5 or 6 he's taken part in. Are we going to see a double cross? What do you reckon? Man's on form.
Not yet, Phil. Not yet. He's the youngster. I have a lot of time for Isaac Del Toro. He's an incredible bike rider. If there's anyone who could take the reins from Tadej in the future, it is this kid. I mean, first of all, Mexican rider, we haven't seen anyone like this since Raul Alcala. None of them are even close. And maybe Raul could even race his bike as fast as what we're seeing with the bull from Isaac Del Toro. So I love to say that. But yeah, when I was looking through the start list, I'm like thinking, okay, well, apart from his teammates, Isaac Del Toro, and if he was on a different team, yeah, I think he might give him a little bit of shove. But at the same time, Phil, you saw what happened, at the World Championships. He's just on a different level. I mean, Isaac was the only one who was able to go with Tadej, but Tadej just having a little bit more in the tank at all times. And that's really been the common theme, the common thread that we continue to see, that maybe 1 or 2 riders could go with Tadej, but he could continue to pound out this infernal pace. And they usually keep them within 45 seconds to a minute. You could say that maybe Tadej's feathering that gap, or you could say that he's falling apart one way or the other. It doesn't really matter. He's still ahead of them and chasing. When you go down the list, Evenepoel's going to be there again. He obviously has fantastic form. I mean, you saw what he did in the time trial in the World Championships in Rwanda, but that was insane how fast he was. Of course, European Championships, but it's a different scenario, different conversation altogether when you're talking about 200 plus kilometers with a lot of climbing and what Tadej could do on his terrain. I think the best quote that I saw this last week was Mathieu van der Poel. And, Matthew Vanderpool, you have to say, is one of the best one-day riders we've ever seen, right? And he says that, but on Tadej's terrain, there's nothing you could do about it. You can't do anything against this guy. You could train differently. I'm sure Vanderpool will work on a sprint to make sure if he ever does come head-to-head with this guy, he's going to win 10 times out of 10. But apart from that, I mean, you've seen tactics being put in play. You see teams going on the front, and eventually it looks like they're almost working for Tadej, making it easier for him to win. So I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do when you're at the drawing board thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow morning in the race. How are you going to go about him apart from having any kind of crashes or mechanicals and taking advantage of that? It's really hard, Phil, to see someone else not being on that top step tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be a great race. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not saying that Tadej isn't suffering, while he's doing this. It's not easy for him, but sure, man, we're sitting on the couch watching this at home. It sure does look kind of easy, doesn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, well, I'll come to Tadej again in a moment, but with Tadej, there's no tactics anyway. He just breaks away between 70 and 100 kilometers from the finish. That's what he does. And go with him if you can. And the answer is, so far, nobody's been able to go with him. What's the secret to his success? First of all, my opinion, he races only when he wants to, and there's big gaps between his race days. I think he's done about 44 race days this year. Now, in Eddie Merckx's day, he did 60 to 100 days racing a year. He doesn't race much, Tadej. He just goes away and prepares for his targets. And is that his secret?
Yeah, I truly think still his secret is that he truly enjoys it. I think this is still a game to him. I don't think it's a profession. I know it's at some point in time in everyone's career, it changes from having fun to, clocking in every day and making sure you're fit enough to race. So as of right now, as long as he continues to enjoy what he's doing, I think we're going to see the best come out of him. And we saw a little bit of a changing, and you probably realize this as well. Like during the Tour de France, I don't think he was having a good time. I think he was ready for that race to get over with. Thinking about if he goes and wins another stage, he's wrong. He's being greedy. If he doesn't race and let somebody else win, well, he's not going as hard as he was caught in a catch-22. So I think truly his superpower, above and beyond being the best of all time, is just how much fun he's having out there. And, the way he gets up for these races day in, day out, after he's already won so much already, I mean, he can be forgiven for mailing in once in a while, but he doesn't. He doesn't. So I think as long as he's still enjoying it, as long as he's ticking those boxes and looking forward to these races, good luck to everybody else.
And that's it. I've always said it makes him so difficult to beat because he loves racing his bike. Christian, it looks as though the sun has just come up. I know it's a lot earlier with you. Can you just pull the drapes up?
I'm hiding.
I don't. That's better.
There we go. That's a little better. I don't know. Yeah. It's getting worse.
A very opportune position, seeing the World Championship jersey behind you there, Christian, because, of course, he'll be in his World Championship jersey tomorrow, Tadej. Now, the question is beginning to sort of popple around the business now is Tadej winning too often to keep the viewers on television? Personally, I love to watch him do it because he takes his chance. He often doesn't know if he's misjudged the move. He just does it. But do you think I'm not talking about the expert cyclists, but the people just watching television? I mean, I had the same problem when I was a journalist, when Eddie Merckx won everything, literally everything. I used to ring my newspaper and ask for my word count for the story. And the first question they asked was, has Eddie Merckx won? And I'd say, yes. Then they said, just give us a bit. Because we're not European reporters, I was in Britain. So they didn't want a big story when Eddie won after a while. Now, with Tadej, I love watching him race, and I agree with you. But do you think he's becoming a bit of a turn-off for the general public? Because he wins too much.
I understand that side. I understand that side. And the only thing that I was able to watch that was such a dominant force really was Tiger Woods and, of course, Michael Jordan. And being from Chicago, we were definitely biased in that point of view. So I was always looking forward to seeing Michael win in the Bulls. But yeah, I think the second that we see him not be as aggressive, I think we'll miss it, Phil. And so I think it's one of those things to appreciate what we're getting to watch right now, because the second this is gone, we're going to be upset about it. And I think a great stage you remember in the Tour de France, for example, was stage 21. Without Tadej in the yellow jersey, risking life and limb and going full gas, would that have been as good of a stage as it was? I don't think so, Phil. He lit that race up, and he didn't need to. Second, third, fourth, fifth place, they all sat up at the bottom of Marmont. They didn't have to race because the time was all taken in the last time or the third time across the line. So I applaud him for continuously risking everything day in, day out. These crazy attacks from 70, 80 kilometers ago, like you just mentioned. But yeah, I get it. I understand both sides, and I just continue to remind myself as well, because I see the headlines, I see the comments, I see the people, what they're saying, and I truly understand that side. And you want to see a race that's competitive, and you want to see guys but you have to also, I remind myself that these guys right behind him are incredible athletes. It's not like he's in a junior race. He is racing the best in the world. These guys are riding faster than they ever have. It's a more competitive peloton that we've ever seen in the history of cycling, but yet he is still, and which makes it even more incredible that we're even having this conversation, Phil, that we're bringing up Merckx, we're bringing up Fausto Coppi now. I mean, this is something I never thought would ever happen, but I want to turn it to you, Phil, because you actually got the witness, and you, like you just said, had to actually commentate on all of the reign of Mr. Merckx. And how was that compared to what you're seeing here today?
Well, I used to interview bike riders of the day. The Gerard Kool was one, and we were riding the Amstel Gold Race. Well, we weren't. I was there, and I walked up to Gerard with a camera and said, "Gerard, who's going to win today?" And he just looked at me. He said, "Well, if Eddie wants to win today, then we all ride for second place." That was before the race even started. That's what he said. Eddie himself, he'd always say, "Well, we'll see." But he would tell the riders in the race. I remember another case in the Amstel Gold Race. He said to the guys, one guy in the race, he said, "I'm attacking at this point on the next circuit. You can come if you like." He told the guys where he was going to attack. And then, of course, well, everybody loved Eddie around the world except the French. But the French really loved Eddie when he stayed in the Tour de France back in 1975, when he basically fractured his skull on a crash at the base of the Col de Galibier. He crashed on the Col de Telegraph in the neutralized zone and hit his face just about here. So this bone was cracked. The doctors put out a radio call saying that they took no responsibility for Mr. Merckx because he refuses to abandon. And he refused to abandon for the next 2 weeks of the Tour de France. Every day he came to the commentary line and he grabbed hold of what was then scaffolding where we were commenting on. And the whole scaffolding shook because he was shaking like a leaf when he crossed the line. And the Belgian journalists waiting for him to say the words, "I don't start tomorrow." But he never did. So fast forward to the finish on the Champs-Élysées. And the very first time the race ever finished there. And the French television wore suits. Now, they never wore suits. They always wore jeans. But they had the best suits on because they were live on television with the President of France. And they went, Eddie Merckx had pulled on his World Championship jersey because it no longer had yellow. It was lost to Bernard Thévenet, who during that 2 weeks had become a pretty strong bike rider, to say the least. And Eddie, and the commentator said, Jean Lillier said to Eddie, you're about to lose your first Tour de France. He'd won every one he'd ridden, 5. And he looked at Jean and he said, "No, I haven't lost it." "Oh," he said, "you're 2 minutes behind." "Yeah. And as soon as the flag drops, I'm going to attack." Thévenet went bright red in the face. "I'm going to attack." Because we'd never raced the Champs-Élysées before, and it's a long climb to the Arc de Triomphe and hard. Eddie went so fast that Thévenet just held his back wheel, puffing, and was bright red in the face. They went out of sight of the peloton, and then Eddie did the whole lap, I think it's about 7 kilometers, came back to the start-finish line for lap number 2. He looked at Bernard and he said, "Now you've won the Tour de France." And the next morning, the French press had gone from hating Eddie Merckx, of beating the French so often, to the greatest man that ever rode a bike. And that's stuck ever since. If you saw the welcome Eddie got a few years ago when the race started in Brussels, you know what the French think.
But Phil, yeah, apart from the nostalgia, because it's always, just like I mentioned with what I thought of Michael. I mean, these guys both had a crazy thirst for winning. I mean, Eddie, there's stories of Eddie, even for the smaller races, just ready to sell Axel Merckx, his son, for the win. He's ready to go at all times. He wants it so badly. But was there a time though where people were kind of over it, like you're kind of alluding to with Tadej, where they're just like, oh, again, here we go again. Eddie's going to take the win. Back in the UK, for example, like you just mentioned, they just write me a small blurb if there isn't somebody else who's competitive with Eddie.
Yeah, well, I don't work in newspapers anymore. I don't know what really coverage they get here, but the TV coverage is immense. And Tadej's the man who comes on screen. No, this guy's right. He's too exciting to I think, bore the viewers. He goes and he just goes. And there are those that go with him, as we know, and he just waits for his next moment, breaks them, and rides alone. He doesn't care how many kilometers he is from the finish. And he doubts himself sometimes too, as he did in the World Championship last year, when he went in the last 100K and thought, oh, boy, I've made a big mistake. But he didn't. He won the race. No, I think it's a great moment for everybody. They talk about Eddie Merckx and Tadej. They argue the greatest of all time. I don't think they stand comparison anymore. They are two of the best bike riders we've ever seen, and there's no doubt that the best rider currently is Tadej. But the one man who I want to see get even closer and who's crossed the line in second place these last couple of races with a wry grin on his face, beaten again, no idea how to work out Tadej, is, of course, Remco Evenepoel. Now, let's not forget, he's got bad memories of Lombardia with his crash on the wall of Serrano when he went downhill and off the end. And that was back in 2020, I think, just around the COVID time, 2020. Well, now he's back and he's on form. And he's finished second to Tadej since then, last year, in fact, in the event. All right, he was 3 minutes behind, shades of the old Tadej at the moment. He doesn't win by seconds anymore, he wins by minutes. But there's no doubt in my mind that Remco is going to put on a heck of a show for us against Tadej this time out. And he'll go with every move he delivers and see if he can last longer.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And I had almost forgotten, it's easy to forget the trials and tribulations a rider will go through in the short career that Remco's already had. And thinking about him falling off that bridge and going into ravine, and the injuries that he sustained there, and the injuries that he got over already just this last year when he got doored by a postal worker in Belgium in last December. The season he's put together this year, you have to take your hat off to him yet again. And then switching teams to Bora going forward, it'll be interesting to see if they could crack the code a little bit closer, or get closer to him as far as his prowess and when he goes, and be able to respond to this. And so many people talk about, well, you just have to work on your 1 minute, 2 minute power. Well, what about the 7 to 10 minutes that we've been going at 450 watts, 500 watts before he does that 1 or 2 minute power? There's so many different variables that he puts into play. And even attacking in Tre Valley, he was attacking on descent, and that's where he really got his really buffer, and no one was able to bring him back again afterwards. So I think Remco is this guy that we'll definitely continue to focus on. As far as the Grand Tours goes, he still needs to work on that as far as what he could do in the high mountains. But yeah, there's no doubt he's one of the best, if not the best, time trialist we've ever seen. I mean, he is an absolute bullet. What he did to Filippo Ganna at the Europeans is incredible. And of course, what he did to Tadej Pogačar himself in the World Championships in Rwanda was amazing. So I'm with you, Phil. I'm really looking forward to see the project that is going to be Remco going forward in 26 with Bora Hansgrohe and Red Bull, excuse me. But you always want to be the one being chased, not the one you're chasing someone. Especially, you don't want to be chasing Tadej Pogačar. And when he does get that gap in life and in the race this weekend, it is not easy to bring him back. And how do you really mitigate the gap of form and bring that back to at least be able to stay on the wheel to see the finish line when he sees the finish line and not a minute behind, like you just mentioned? There's a lot of work to be done over this wintertime. So get this race done. And I'm sure as far as Red Bull goes, they're already thinking about ways to get Remco up to speed just a little bit more to be able to be competitive with Tadej.
I agree. Now, Tadej won his first 2 tours of Lombardy in a sprint finish. only a couple of riders, but it was a sprint. Then he went out 23, would it be? 23, yeah. That was his third victory. And he won by 50 odd seconds against Baggioli. And the rest were a bit back. Last year, he won by over 3 minutes. So he's making steady improvement, isn't he? From 2 sprints to a 56 second and then 3 minutes, 16 seconds beating Remco. But I still foresee a great race. And don't forget, we're going round the different route. We're in the opposite direction this year. Which is becoming something of a fashion with the organisers now. We're going from Como to Bergamo, and 2 years ago we went from Bergamo to Como. Same winner. We'll just see if it works out again. But it means that the climbs are climbed in reverse, so the difficult climbs can be quite harder going towards Bergamo than they are towards Como. So we can get the viewers in a real tiz commentating on the race on Saturday, although that will be my privilege. I'm going to watch it. Yeah, I think it's a great course, and it's in the most beautiful area of Italy. And of course, we go past the highly religious place of the Madonna di Gesù. Let's look down at the other challenges. And my favourite rider of the year, because he never stops trying, you probably know I'm going to say it, Ben Healy. What a magical! And he got third in the world on the most ridiculously tough course I think I've ever seen in my life. Again, same winner, perfect for Tadej. But Ben comes up and gets the bronze medal and salutes like he's won the gold, because that's how, first of all, Tadej makes the runners-up feel very special because they've got that close to him. But what about Ben to finish off a crowning glory of a season and get a podium at least in Lombardia?
I think for sure that Ben is one of the riders that I would put, especially if it's a difficult race, especially if they're making the race very hard from distance, just trying to risk everything, because that's pretty much what many of these teams need to do. Ben is that rider who can absorb the punishment of a very hard day and still pretty much have the same kind of speed he had when he started the race. He's not an incredibly quick rider, but he is so darn strong. Think about the best diesel rider we've ever seen in a compact person. So he could climb well, he could ride well. He's incredibly aerodynamic on the flats, and he just never gives up, Phil. I mean, watching this guy day in, day out, going to those breakaways from the motorcycle was so fun to watch. I mean, this kid gave everything. And there was days when he was going for the jersey, I mean, absolutely turning himself inside out with all the riders just sitting on his wheel, sitting behind him. And so I'm with you. I'm a massive fan of this kid, to see what he could do, especially in these one-day races where it's just full gas all day long, which most likely it will be. And so I think it plays into his hands for sure. Remco, like we just mentioned, Ben Healy, Primož Roglic, Pellizzari on Red Bull as well. Incredible rider who did really well in the Vuelta. It's just a question of who's going to take massive risks, who's going to still have any gas in the tank late into the season, especially like I just mentioned with Pellizzari after the Vuelta, España. These guys got to be a little bit exhausted. Schelmosa is another one from Lidl-Trek. Yeah. I think he could have a great race. I've been incredibly impressed with his teammate. That would be Tom Squeens. Tom Squeens, another guy who is always up there somehow. Always up there.
Wherever he rides, he finishes.
Yeah. When is he going to get a look, Phil? When is he going to be a protected rider on here? He's getting older as well. I mean, Tom's has been up in this game for a long time. He's been there for a long time, especially but as far as being a leader on the team, it really wasn't until the last spring where we really saw him come to the forefront and have confidence in himself. But back to his team at Schelmosa, I think that he's one of those guys that really could do something from distance. He's the only one of everyone who beat Tadej up straight up this year as well. You think of Amstel Gold in the sprint. That was the only one. So, we have some little bit of reason to have a little bit of faith that Tadej won't be the only one who's going to win this race 5 times in a row, but it's going to be hard to beat him.
I've got to be honest. I'm making a lot of beer out of Tadej because I've got a guy who rings me up. He lives in France and he's usually in Switzerland or he's on the big tours. He always sends me a text saying, "Okay, bet your pint on who's going to win today." And I would go back and say, "Pogačar." I always got first shout. And now we're in a situation where I've said tomorrow, double or quit. I'll give him all his beer back, which I haven't claimed yet. if Pogačar doesn't win. Otherwise, I get double. So I get twice as much if Pog wins tomorrow. And so my local pub here will welcome me in with open arms. And all the money will come in Swiss francs. They still have Swiss francs, I'm not sure. I think they do.
They do. Well, I'm glad you could walk home from that pub. I'm glad it's close enough. And Trish doesn't have to go and pick you up.
She's a good driver. Yeah, and she doesn't like beer. I'll be safe there. The only name I think of the Christian is Oscar Onley. I'd like to see Oscar finish a great season too. He's developed well this year. Great Tour de France, 4th in the Tour. He loves climbs. He hasn't got the overall strength of Tadej, but if he can get in the move, because Tadej will get a breakaway going before half distance. It's 150 miles tomorrow, and Tadej will get that break underway. And Remco will also come in and offer his worth. I don't think Tadej's going to attack. Let's face it, they all know it. He's proved it for the last races from before the Worlds, in Tour de France, etc. He's going to attack by halfway. He will be, so it's 240k, yeah, so 120k. He's coming to his magic 100. He'll be looking for moves all the time. Might be an early breakaway. He'll have to get across to it. Remco marks him wherever he goes, always does. But I like Remco because he often attacks first. Just unfortunately, Tadej catches him and he can't cope with Tadej when he gets up there. But I'd love Remco to win. I really will. I think that guy's a real racer, and his bad luck, I hope, is now all behind him.
Well, as far as attacking, I don't know what's going to be. You know, the difference being with this is that now he has his trade team behind him yet again, as opposed to the Europeans and in the World Championships, he was part of the Slovenian national team. So that is a completely different story. I mean, this team that's starting this race is ridiculous. They have plenty of riders who could all go to the finish line, be on the podium. But you mentioned already Isaac Del Toro. So I think they're going to go just so hard, Phil, that there's going to be not many riders left. And if you think about going on the Gisala, for example, that's where everything's going to go completely sideways. And if you have someone like Del Toro setting tempo or attacking and he's on his wheel, I don't think there's too many people in the world who actually could go with him, to be honest with you. So, I mean, especially if you think that if Del Toro's working for someone else, so that means he could go above and beyond his limit and not have to worry about holding that form to the finish line and Tadej being on his wheel. Oh, my goodness. I mean, who's going to be able to go with that? So I think it might be a little bit more together. There's going to be those dangerous breakaways. There's going to be the riders like most likely Healy is going to go from distance at some point in time. He's a very aggressive rider, and that's why we all love him and big fans of Healy. So most likely a very strong breakaway, and I think that UAE is just going to continue to drive him, and then go from distance. You know, and I think that's really been. But Tadej's fast as well. Let's not forget about that. He's a very quick rider to the finish line. So, I mean, being the freshest at the finish line helps a lot as well. So you don't necessarily have to be the fastest when the race starts, but at the finish line, it's a completely different kettle of fish. So, you know, it's over 10,000 feet of climbing. Like I mentioned, very treacherous descents, as we've seen and talked about with Remco Evenepoel going over the bridge a couple of years ago, quite a few years ago. But yeah, that's the way I see it playing out, just because the team is so strong. And we have one race left to go, all in for Tadej, make this a race to remember for a long time with 5 in a row, and who's going to break that record?
Well, last year was very special. He did what they now call the Triple Crown. He won the Tour, the Giro, and France. Only the third guy to do that. This year, he's virtually repeated his whole last season. So I suppose there'll be another book coming out at the end of the year. We'll have to call it something else. 5 times winner of the Giro di Lombardia. I don't know. Okay, so we've decided on the winner. Who's going to podium second and third? And then I've got one more question for you after that.
I definitely think it's going to be. I still have faith in Remco that he's going to be up there. I think he has that kind of form and ambition. Maybe most importantly, he just wants it so badly. Third place, that's going to be a toss up. I would love to see Ben Healy. It'd be interesting to see if Roglic could get up there. He was looking okay in Trey Valley. He was one of the guys who was up there. So I'm looking for a rider of his kind of caliber sitting behind him. And then maybe outside with Skelmos. Skelmos is back on the upswing as well.
Well, your first three names are my podium as well. So it's looking pretty predictable for Pogačar, Evenepoel, and Healy, I hope. But I would like to see an intruder in there as well. But I just like seeing these guys race. They're so exciting. We never had so many guys near the top that put on such big races. And they're not afraid to go for Tadej. He's having a bit of a problem controlling him. Well, that's all tomorrow, of course, and it gets underway pretty. It's a long day in the saddle. The roads, as you pointed out, very dangerous in the area around Como, very narrow, steep descents. And we'll be without Mads Pedersen because he's now had to call an early end to his career, season. And also Vande, who's already retired for the season. So let's go on then. Now, first of all, I don't actually know, but UAE, they've set the record for the most wins in any one season, which they took over from HTC, as Mark Cavendish reminded me on Wednesday when I had lunch with him here in London. And he was on the HTC team that used to lead it, then it became UAE. But have they gone over the 90 mark? Because I'll be honest, I haven't checked. And this whole string of wins by Del Toro may have gone over the 90 mark for the team wins in 1 year.
They have. And, you know, I raced against those guys. I think that was 2009, I believe, with HTC when they were just on a roll. And they had incredible rides. You think of Greipel, Cav, of course. It was honestly, it was endless list of young riders. Tony Martin. They just could. Yeah, Bosenhagen. I mean, Edvald was incredible that year. So this conversation of, you know, with Kopi, with Merckx and Tadej, and then now with teams, these records that we never thought would ever be broken again. And now we're seeing it all come to fruition. So what they're going to be able to do, you know, Ayuso's leaving the team next year. I like to see the spreading out of the wealth. I'd love to see some other riders. You know, we just talked about Isaac Del Toro. I would love to see Isaac Del Toro go to a different team in the near future. I don't want all these guys being on one team. I want to see, we all want to see these racers racing against each other. You know, like just kind of like we were talking about Liv and PGA Tour going forward. We want to see the best of the best, just like at the Masters. We want to see these guys go head to head against each other, really push each other. So it'd be interesting to see how well UAE is able to hold on to that, because are you going to be able to get your nod in the future if you're Isaac Del Toro, if Tadej Pogačar is sitting next to you? Of course you're not. I mean, this guy's already won this 5 times, you know, so you have to think about ways to get to the front and really to have that support system around you. So I like what we're seeing. We're starting to see a little bit more of a spreading out. We're going to see some big riders going to Ineos, which is nice. We're going to see, like I just mentioned, with Ayuso going over to Lidl-Trek, even though Skelmos was not exactly excited about that one.
My next question. That's what I was going to say. What do you think I'm going over there?
I don't know. I mean, he's going to have to change his mindset. I mean, I'm not going to read into too much what happened with UAE and Ayuso, but you have to, because that's all we have to go off of right now, and how he was as a teammate. And I will say that Lidl-Trek, they don't play that game. They don't play that game at all. Those guys are an amazing group of characters that all are in for one another. You see what they all do for Mads Pedersen, and Mads Pedersen for his teammates. You have one of the best riders in the world going tooth and nail for his teammates. That is a sight to behold. So he's going to have a little bit of change in his mindset going forward. And I'm willing to believe in whatever happened in UAE is behind him, and he's going to turn the page and go to Lidl-Trek. Skelmos didn't mince words too much. He was not impressed with the way it all went down, or the lack of correspondence and communication with himself and the team. We'll see how that goes, but it'll be fun. We're seeing more drama, that's for sure, over these last 2 years we've seen in a long time. Maybe not used to it. You know, we're not used to seeing these dramatic scenes coming out of the teams like this. You know, we've had with Remco trying to leave the team for a while now. He finally did in splitting his contract. The same thing with Ayuso. Some pretty harsh words being, put from the staff or the front management of UE and back and forth, call them dictators. So that's pretty rough with Ayuso. So yeah, it's been fun to watch as a spectator, and hopefully any news is good news these days.
Well, in joining Lidl-Trek, they've had a tremendous season anyway, and they're always a very aggressive team, both in the men and the women, in fact. But with Ayuso on the team, You've got the big toughies like Mads Pedersen, he'll be in full swing again next year alongside him. You've got Skelmoser. There are a number of riders in that team now who might feel that with one, they've got somebody to really attack with, to possibly break the spirit of the UAE, perhaps. By the way, it's 92 wins. We have the best producer in the world, don't we, Christian? He just whispered in my ear that 92 wins for UAE this season, and we haven't seen the end of it yet. But I think we're going to have to spread the big names around now. And I think if Del Toro has a really good year next year, and I'm sure he will, he's only a kid, and he's 6 years younger. He's 6 years younger. I think we're going to see with these team changes, the teams might be answering our question about how long can Pogačar keep winning, and Lidl-Trek will probably lead the way with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming top sport, isn't it, Phil? I mean, just like you would with football, soccer, and same thing goes, especially with American football. You have to risk so much for your quarterback. You have to make them a franchise player and pay them an obscene amount of money. And if someone gets hurt, they get hurt, or they don't work out, they don't play, they don't perform the way you thought, but you have to take the risk. Without taking those kind of risks, you're never going to know. And I think that Lidl-Trek had to take that risk on a true marquee GC rider, something that they don't truly have. Skelmos had some bad luck. There was a horrible crash that he had this year, yet again, in the Tour de France. So I think I wouldn't say that was a bad move by them. I mean, we don't know until we actually see what happens till this comes to fruition. But it truly is becoming top sport as far as the pays go. You know, these are big riders these days. They're franchise players who are paying an obscene amount of money, and just hoping that they're going to be able to perform at the top step. And really, it's all about the Tour de France. How do you perform during the Tour de France? That is truly the top watermark. The Giro, of course, is massive, and the Vuelta is great, but it is all eyes on the Tour de France. Still to this day, if you say that what would you do for a living? I was a professional biker, and they don't get it. They say I did the Tour de France. They're like, oh, if I said the Giro d'Italia, they'd probably be like, I don't know. That's the United States, but I know it's different year round, but it's true though, isn't it?
No, it's absolutely true. It's the same here in the UK. When I tell people in the UK I'm a commentator, what sport do you commentate on? I said mostly cycling. They go blank, because they don't really appreciate just how hard a sport it is, or how entertaining. And this year has been a great year of entertainment. We went to the first Worlds in Rwanda. We saw the best rider in the world scalp the field, and it was a great field. They only sent climbers because no sprinter would have lived in Rwanda. It's impossible. Anyway, Christian, that's it. We're going to see the last monument tomorrow. We're going to enjoy it. If you don't pick the winner, by the way, you owe me a pint. But apart from that, I'm looking forward to next year working alongside you. Good to see you, mate. And you have a good Christmas too, if I don't speak to you again.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I hope to talk to you before then, Phil.
I might get eaten. You never know.
All right. Take care. See you, Phil. Great to see you.
Well, all the very best. Enjoy the race tomorrow.
You too.
For all your cycling content year-round, subscribe to NBC Sports YouTube page. We got it all.